Okay, there we go. We're restarting. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the exciting, the one and only, the magnanimous Bubble Boy podcast. A podcast unlike anything that you've ever seen because there's a camera and there's sound, and I'm talking alone to the camera. And no one's doing that. No one's doing that at all. Got some things to cover. It's going to be kind of a journalistic entry. Some highs of highs, some lows of lows we're going to be covering today. It is Tuesday, and tomorrow the episode is supposed to come out. And so, for the sake of pride and integrity, I must put something out. But I am in a bit of a weird headspace. So that's kind of what the episode's going to be about as well. So, come along with you, won't you? Come along, won't you? On this exciting journey on another episode of the Bubble Boy Podcast. Hey, I know I've seen the comments. We haven't been fulfilling the gimmick. The gimmick has fallen behind. So we are going to drink a beautiful Buena Vista Black Cherry from the Rocky Mountain Soda Company. So don't worry, we're drinking the soda. Yes, the last couple episodes have I not had a bottle opener, so we haven't been able to drink any of the sodas. Or has soda just not been a part of the conversation in its entirety? Yes. Are people upset about it? I'm assuming yes. There are no comments. No one's saying anything. No one has told me in person, hey, where's the soda? I like to think of it as an integral part of the show. Obviously not so much that I've abandoned it regularly in the last couple episodes, but hey, it's a part of the show. So we brought back a soda. I will be drinking this soda. Hopefully it's a twist off this time. I've been getting screwed with the last couple times I have tried to do the soda. Every soda is a twist off. Jick Jack Blue Raspberry, not a twist off. The Fanta from the Patrick Shaughnessy episode, not a twist off. And I'm not bringing around a bottle opener everywhere with me because I'm not an alcoholic. So I got to remember to do that. That would be nice. That would be nice for the sodas. But speaking of, I did want to do a redemption of the Jick Jack Blue Raspberry, of that Fruit Punch Fanta from, I think, Thailand, and drink those for you, the listeners, because I'm sure you are salivating with curiosity as to how those tasted. I do have the Jick Jack Blue Raspberry. I do not have the Fanta. I did leave the Fanta at the Comedy Fort in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I'm sure no one has drank it. I'm sure that is sitting... I'm sure it's in the trash. If not, I'm sure it's sitting in a mini fridge in the green room, and it'll probably be there for months. Honestly, probably when I go back, it'll probably still be there. So maybe I can bring it back and we can redeem this Fanta soda, which I was what's it, October, August, September? I was going to do a Bubble Boy episode with the wonderful, the hilarious, the silly boy, Mitch Jones. And I bought the Fanta because Mitch is a juggalo. He loves the juggalo culture, and they love Fantas. So I bought a Fanta for him, and we were going to do that episode together. And then, that's not what juggalos drink. They drink Faygo. They don't drink Fanta. So then I ended up having to cancel that episode because my wife was in the hospital. Yes. But it's mostly because I was embarrassed that I accidentally bought a Fanta, not a Faygo. My wife being in the hospital was true, but that was a ruse to get out of embarrassing myself in front of Mitch Jones. So that episode did not happen. Also, nothing serious. My wife had what we believe to be a kidney stone, but she's never had a kidney stone before. And when you're pregnant, hey, when you have a ripping pain through your body and you're pregnant, you go to the hospital. I think even if you normally just have a kidney stone, I think you still go to the hospital because that looks like it sucks. That looks like it's a real bad time. And we were in the hospital for, this is just how, the health industry, I don't know. My wife would say treats women. I say treats human beings in general because they're protected by lobbyists and blah, blah. But maybe particularly women. But we were in the waiting room for, I want to say 3 hours. And then we got into a room. Again, she's pregnant, so, hey, ripping pain in my pregnant wife. All right, well, we'll get to you when we get to you. Which, on one hand, I understand because you only have a certain amount of rooms. But on the other hand, hey, snap to it. So we wait in the waiting room for 3 hours. Then we get into the room, and then we wait for like 7. I think we were in the hospital in like the ER for like 10 or 11 hours. Now, at one point, they take her blood. And on her phone, she gets the blood test results before, like, the doctors come back because you can look it up on your UC Health app or whatever. So she gets a notification, new test results came in. She looks it up. We don't know what any of these things mean, but we're Googling them. It's like, oh, hey, your beta-carotenes, which I think is like a vitamin. I'm making this up. But your whatever level's really high. This level, super low. Your white blood cells, I know that's a thing. Your white blood cells, super high. And then we take those results from the tests, and then we search them. What does it mean when my beta-carotenes, again, making that up, my white blood cells, and this is high? We know white blood cells high means something's wrong, like that's an infection or like something is being fought in your body. And it was like, oh, you probably have, from these search results, you probably have kidney stones or a kidney infection. Oh, all right. So then, doctor comes back 6 hours later, goes, well, you seem to be all right now, so we're gonna send you on your way. Like, oh, okay, but we've been here for like, not to press, but we've been here for like 11 hours, and for 6 hours of that, she was in like the worst pain of her life. So I know you seeing us now, she looks fine, but she was actually doing really, really, really bad before. So much so that we came to the ER. And they're like, yeah, well, she looks fine now. So you guys are good to go. Also, I should say before I finish this sentence, there was like 2 other times that we're like, hey, can we get, like she was supposed to get an ultrasound for the baby, supposed to get someone to come do a blood test. Someone was supposed to come bring my wife like, some soup or some Jell-O so she could eat something. And every single time they're like, slipped our minds, our bad. It's like, okay, so if we would have asked an hour and a half ago, like I'm trying not to bother them because they're at a hospital. Their staff at the emergency room, I'm sure they're busy. But Lydia kept going, do you think we should ask them, like, when my thing's coming? And I kept going, I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure they're taking care of it. And 3 times they were like, nope, we literally just forgot. We'll do that right now. And then they would immediately come and do the thing. So, yeah. Anyways. So the doctor comes in. And that was another thing we asked them. We're like, hey, can we see the can we go? Can we see the doctors? And like, we got to get the doctor. That's right. That's what we were supposed to do. Knew I was forgetting something. So they go get the doctor. The doctor comes back. He's like, you seem fine. And we're like, oh, okay. I'm glad, but we did get like these blood results, and the blood results look suspicious. They look bad. Oh, I'm not a doctor. They don't look good. And again, not a doctor, but we did put some search results in, and it looks like it could be like a kidney stone or a kidney infection. And then you say something, doctor, and the doctor's like, yeah, well, it could be, it could not be. But you seem good now, so get out. And then the next day, my wife called like a teledoc appointment. As like a follow-up. No one recommended this. The doctors were like, by the way, tomorrow I'll call a teledoc. She just went, I should probably reach out to someone. Scheduled a teledoc appointment. The teledoctor was like, yeah, so I see the blood results from your ER stay last night. Like your white blood cells were high. This was high. This was high. It looks like you had a kidney stone or a kidney infection. What antibiotics did they give you? I'm not seeing that anywhere. And she went, oh, they didn't give me antibiotics. And he's like, they didn't give you antibiotics. Your white blood cells are like, you clearly have something wrong. Like, you have a kidney stone or a kidney infection. I'm giving you a prescription for antibiotics right now. Just insane that they didn't take care of her at all. So anyways, that's why, and then I got a Fanta. So that's why I had to cancel the podcast with Mitch Jones. Um, so that's one thing. Also, my wife, hey, we're kind of all over the place. I want to talk about the Comedy Fort. I want to talk about highs of highs, lows of lows. But now that we're past, now we're on pregnancy adjacent. So the podcast is going to probably, starting next year in January, either going to start coming out sporadically, like maybe not every week, maybe it's every other week, maybe it's once a month. Maybe I just do it before the Pikes Punks comedy show that I run the last Saturday of every month here in beautiful Colorado Springs, Colorado. Maybe it's just like, hey, you're coming down for the Pikes Punks show. Let's do a podcast episode. And this just kind of becomes the Pikes Punks podcast on accident for a while. But my wife is pregnant, and she is having a baby in March. And I can't imagine anything that would, A, upset her more, or B, that is lower on my priority list when I have a newborn baby than delivering a weekly podcast. And, maybe it just comes out, maybe it's just audio. It's like, hey, I'm driving to a show. I got a show in Loveland or something. I'll just record an episode on the way there, on the way back, and it'll just be audio, and I'll upload that. I want to keep it, I don't want to, not do the podcast, because then that means I've failed at something, or I have to quit, and I can't publicly allow that to happen. So I have to keep going. I have to keep making the podcast. Plus, a month from now, 9 months from now, a year and a half from now, when I blow up on TikTok or whatever, when I get a Don't Tell, or when I get a Don't Tell special, or when I get on Jimmy Carson, whatever it might be, the people who find out about me and they go, whoa, who's this dynamo of a young man? They're going to want content. They're going to want something from me. And that's what the podcast would be for. I'm finding out the podcast is not creating new followers. It's not generating. But if something were to happen that did then generate interest and followers, they then want something to follow, therefore the podcast. So I'd rather not quit, because that would be a failure and therefore shameful. Sure, is there a business strategy behind it? Barely. But it's mostly pride. But I do have to keep it going. I can't do it on, I don't imagine that I'll be able to do it on a regularly, weekly scheduled regiment. I think I will be. I'm recording an episode now for something that's supposed to come out tomorrow. So obviously I'm not the most on top of it as is. And I've said this on previous episodes before, but on an episode, like my episode with Ryan Ergo with the Jick Jack Blue Raspberry that did not have a soda drink on it. My episode with Ryan Ergo with the Jick Jack Blue Raspberry. It has 75 or 80 views on YouTube, which is pretty good. And it has 4 listens on Spotify. So people are almost exclusively watching this on YouTube. People are not really listening to the podcast episode as a podcast. They're watching it, which means I can't do audio only, because then I would just be shooting myself in the foot. There has to be some kind of visual component, but what was I going with that? There was a point to that. The point being, people watch this on YouTube, and why was that important? It doesn't matter. Anyways, the point being, I want to have something so that this is not technically a failure, because it's not a failure if you don't quit. But also, newborn baby, I can't imagine a podcast. Oh, Ryan Ergo, 80 views on YouTube. There's been a couple episodes, yes, where I have forgotten to charge the battery. Or I think one of these batteries is Buccees. I'm actually going to give myself a little bit of credit here. I think one of the batteries dies and one of them doesn't. They're supposed to last an hour each, if not a little bit more, like an hour 15. And I think one of them only lasts for 45 minutes. I do think that is part of the problem. But anyways, not all the video gets captured. And there has been, I think, 2 times now where it's just like the memory card filled up. But most of the time it happens, I think it's because the battery dies, and it's, I don't think, actually my fault. Not the point. The point being, people watch this more than they listen to this, and I keep hanging up the video. That's the thing I keep screwing up. The audio comes out fine. The video is where I keep like, oh, the battery wasn't charged, the memory was full, it was out of focus, whatever it was. And that's the thing. People are watching this, and I keep ruining the visual experience of this. Cut me snorting a booger. And I can't imagine I'll be more regimented once I am sleep deprived with a newborn. I can't imagine that's going to be the case. So I want it to come out. I would like it to come out regularly. I would like it to come out regularly with the video. I don't envision that happening. So I'm putting it out there now. Starting in January, even though my baby's due in March, we got to finish the house and the kitchen's coming together. We got an island in there, and we got to start demoing the cabinets. I got to finish my bathroom. I half started tiling. I let the tile, not the grout, because the grout goes on top of the tile. The mud, whatever that is, the mud that you put on the wall for the tile, that the tile then sticks to. I put that in a bucket, and then, like, I'll get back to this tomorrow. Lydia goes, why don't you cover it in plastic wrap so it doesn't dry out. I went, great thought. Very smart. Put plastic on it, that way it doesn't dry. In fact, I'll even add a little bit of water to it so that to dilute the mud, but because it's probably going to dry out a little bit, then it'll dry out to the perfect consistency for me to continue tomorrow. Come back tomorrow after plastic wrapping this bucket full of cement, and hard as a rock. Weird, the cement. And I'm like, man, that dried out really fast. It's not even like it's got a crust or a skin on top. It is like all the way through and through rock. That did not take very long at all. Cement is not mud. You call it mud. It is not mud. Cement is cement. And cement doesn't dry out. It's not how cement works. Cement cures. It's a chemical process that makes the cement hard forever. That's why cement, when it gets wet, doesn't turn back into wet, because it's not dry, it's cured. We all know this, but I have done manual labor maybe 4 times in my life. So these things, they don't click right away. So I now have a bucket completely filled with cement that I'm like, I bet that's helpful for something. I bet having a bucket full of rock, you need to keep a tarp down. That's probably going to be helpful. But I need to go buy a new bucket, need to go buy new mud, whatever it is, and finish the tiling. But anyways, and then we got a floor. We got to tile the floor, but I got to put reinforcement. Anyways, it's a whole thing. I got a lot going on, and I really need to start drilling down on that. Also, this is the podcast studio. Technically, that corner is where I filmed some of the podcast episodes. This now has to become my wife's office, because my wife's office is in what was half a nursery, but now it will be a full nursery. So she's got to move down here, which means I won't have a studio. Not that that matters. I don't think I've recorded in the studio for like 4.5 months. It's been mostly out on the town because I'm an adventurous young man and I want you to follow me on my journeys. I did really want this at some point to be like a very professional podcast. When the podcast started, when I started the podcast, I'm like, when this makes money, I'm going to really pour that money back into the set and into the lighting and I'm going to hire an editor and a producer and all these things. Podcast has not made money, but I was very confident in the beginning it would make money, and I thought I needed a set. And then at a certain point, I'm like, I think I like kind of the DIY guerrilla podcasts on scene. I think I like that aesthetic a little bit more. I think it's just because I'm lazy and I don't have the time in my brain. Not that I don't have the time. I don't have the wherewithal. I don't have the forethought. I don't have the intentionality to book people to come onto the podcast and invite them into my home where I have a podcast studio, quote unquote. I just started going, hey, you're on the show, I'm on the show, let's just talk before the show. So it really came out of a place of laziness. Or is it a intentional, thoughtful choice to have a DIY on-the-go aesthetic? That's what I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you it's because I'm not intentional enough to book the show ahead of time. So there's that. There's that with the podcast. Moving forward, it will be probably a little bit more sporadic. I'll never let it die because I'm not a failure. And I'm not a failure until I stop doing something. So as long as I keep doing it, it's not a failure. Comedy Fort. That was the last episode. Me and Patrick Shaughnessy at the Comedy Fort. Preparing for the Fort's Funniest contest. And it was a good lineup. I was kind of worried about it. I did make it to the next round. Put up the horns. I made it to the next round. It was a good lineup. And it was me, Alex Linton, and Helen Dreesen. I really like Helen. I think she's very funny, and I've never asked her how to pronounce her last name. Dreesen. We made it to the next round. But it was a healthy lineup because Patrick Shaughnessy was on it. He's very funny. Christina Vasily, she was on it. She's very funny. Ben Daly, who I was very scared of. Ben Daly went on right before me. And Ben Daly, who I need to get Ben on the podcast. Ben is very good. I like Ben a lot. I think we get along. But Ben is a clean comedian. He's very good. He's clean in the way that you don't notice he's clean because he's actually just very funny. It's not a shtick that he's doing. But he's great. And he went on right before me, and I was worried he was going to take some of my clean guy zhuzh. Sometimes when you come out and you do like a clean set in the middle of everything, it kind of like, not that it excites people. People don't care. But like people notice there was something different about your set and just like gives them something to remember you by of like, what was that nice young man's whole thing about? He didn't talk about, squirting raw or whatever one time. He was just talking about his family, and that was lovely. So I was worried Ben was going to take my clean guy zhuzh right off the top. And also Ben Daly from the Pikes Punk. He was on the Pikes Punks comedy show January of 2024, earlier this year, and had crushed one of the hardest sets I've seen from someone on a Pikes Punk show. And he was up first, and he just leveled the room. It was outstanding. So I was very nervous that he was going right before me. But the show was not good. Just top to bottom. No one did great. And like I said, great comedians on the show. And some dumb comedians out there will tell you there's no such thing as a bad audience. There's only bad comedians. And I'm here to tell you that is patently untrue. There's lots of bad audiences. And this was one of them. They were terrible. They did not have a good time, I would say. Obviously, I made it to the next round. So I would say that I had one of the best sets of the night. And I would give myself a C-. I would give myself a C-, maybe like a 72%. Just not great, not good. I'll tell you how bad it was. I moved on to the next round. It's a 5-minute set. For 60 seconds of my 5-minute set, the very first 60 seconds, I did not get laughs. No one laughed for the first minute of me doing a 5-minute set. 20% of my set did not get laughs. That's bad. That's bad, especially to start that way. It's not like a lull in the middle. To start that way, horrendous. And I do think I got the biggest pop of the night for a singular laugh. I think I got the biggest singular laugh of the night, and I was really hoping that I didn't think it was, but I was hoping that would be enough to make up for the fact that the first 20% of my set was crickets. Luckily it was. Thank you, closer. But yeah, it was just like I was saying before they announced the results of like who made it through. I was like, guys, we're all losers today. We're all losers. None of us have won. Some of us have lost more. Some of us have lost less. But we're all losers today. We all did bad, and they didn't really enjoy any of us too particularly well. And then they were like, oh, first one, moving on to the next round, Russell Keller. And I was disappointed. I was not thrilled because I was like, oh, I have to do this again. I have to do another 3-hour drive up to Fort Collins to do another 5 minutes unpaid, to do a bad job, I imagine, to drive back down. And the second round is going to be like everyone who made it through the first round. And I'm sure they all had great sets, and I did not. So that one is like, all right, now I got to waste more gas money to drive up to the comedy. I would like to do well. I want to do well. I want to go to the Comedy Fort. I would like to get paid to go to the Comedy Fort, but it's a contest, I understand. But I'm doing it because I want the Comedy Fort to recognize me and book me. I would like to work weekends at the Comedy Fort, even if it means driving 3 hours away to do it. And there is a conspiracy theory that the Comedy Fort... Conspiracy theory? I'm not saying it's true. There's a conspiracy theory that the Comedy Fort does not book anyone from Colorado Springs on purpose because they are from Colorado Springs. And no one from Colorado Springs has made it through to the next round of the contest before. Manny Valdez, the very first year they did it, Manny Valdez did make it to the next round of the contest. Sources say, and by sources say, I mean, I brought this up to Manny recently, and he did say it was true. Sources are saying that Manny said he's from Denver, did not say he was from Colorado Springs, and that's why he made it to the next round. So I am proudly from Colorado Springs, and I want that to be known, and I'm happy that I've made it to the next round, plant that flag, and maybe make some headway for the scene as a whole, but specifically me. I could really care less about the boys. This is mostly about me. So I would like to work more at the Comedy Fort, but I'm not looking forward to doing another bad 5 minutes in this contest. But hopefully Closer will come through once again to save me. But the Comedy Fort was good. I did stop by Buccees on the way home. It's fine. I don't get it. I don't know what all the hubbub's about. The bathrooms are clean. It's huge. It's the biggest gas station I've ever been to. Feel like that's because they spaced everything out so far. It was kind of more just annoying that it was not like it wasn't like it's huge and it's lined wall to wall to wall to wall with snacks and brisket and this, that, and the other. It's like, for me, then I got to walk to the living room, and that's where the snacks are. And then I got to walk upstairs to the front door. That's where the drinks are. It's just like everything is like really far apart. I'm sure so when they have 45,000 people in there at the same time, you're not like crammed in like sardines. But when I went, it was just like, it's just big because they arbitrarily made it big. You could have halved the footprint on this place if you just squished people together a little bit more. Anyways, not impressed with Buccees. Not impressed with the brisket. Is it cool that you can get brisket at a gas station? I guess. I can get brisket at a Come and Go, now called Maverick. I can get brisket at a Maverick. There, you don't see them making a big deal about it, do you? No. Anyways, Buccees, I was unimpressed. It's just a gas station. Everyone, chill out. Highs of highs, lows of lows. Pike's Punk's comedy show I've been producing for like, I don't know, almost 3 years now. Very proud of it. Very happy with it. I think it's going well. People seem to like it. People keep to seem coming back. I will say, hey, if any of you who are listening, if you could do me a huge favor and go on Eventbrite. Eventbrite, I don't know if you can do this if you haven't bought a ticket. I don't know. Eventbrite just started recently, like via the last show that I did last month. They just recently started doing like, hey, if you bought a ticket, you can rate the experience out of 5. So now I have 2 reviews for Pikes Punks that are like, and so it's like I have 3 stars out of 5 on Eventbrite, which they never have had star ratings before. Now they have, and one person gave me 4 stars for value and content. Like value, like for $10 did I get value out of this? And then what was the actual content? They gave me 4 stars. Someone else gave me 2 stars for both. So now I have a 3-star rating from 2 people. I've been doing the show for 3 years. It's very successful. And I only have a 3-star rating on Eventbrite now. So if you've bought a ticket to Pikes Punks, I don't know if you have to buy a ticket in order to do it or if you can just go on Eventbrite and give it 5 stars. If that's the case, if you have to buy a ticket to give it 5 stars, don't buy a ticket. If you could go on like Google and or Facebook and just give it 5 stars, you don't have to write and pretend. You don't have to be like, I was there last month and it was a hell of a show. Just give it 5 stars. Don't leave a review or just say very funny, something like that. But if you could give me 5 stars on Google reviews or on Facebook, that would be huge. I would very much appreciate that. Because if I have 3 stars on Eventbrite but 5 stars everyone else, maybe people will, I don't know. But I'm very annoyed about this 3 stars on Eventbrite. They've never done it before. As soon as they started doing it, someone 2-starred me for reasons unknown, and now I'm very upset. The Pikes Punks comedy show, it's great. It's amazing. It makes me very anxious to book it. It makes me very anxious when I don't sell tickets. And October it is October 29th, so the show was on the 26th, on Saturday. And tickets in October, historically low. Because it's always been like the weekend of not Thanksgiving, of Halloween. Like Halloween, Thursday, Pikes Punk Saturday. So it sold like 20 tickets and I've lost money on it. And this year, I was like, hey, told the venue, I'm like, let's just not do it in October. I don't want to lose money again. And they're like, no. So the way the last Saturday of the month works and how Halloween works is actually it'll be the weekend before Halloween. So maybe it'll be different because the weekend before Halloween instead of the weekend after Halloween. So I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot. That's worse. That is worse. That is bad. I don't know if everyone also had the same thought. We're like, well, why do it on the last Saturday? Let's do it the Saturday before. And everyone did the same thing, and there's just a lot of competition. But it was bad. I did not break double digits of ticket sales. I sold, at the most, little inside baseball for everyone, sold 7 tickets. And day of, and I sold 5 tickets beforehand. And then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 0 tickets sold. Saturday, finally, 2 people bought tickets, so then it was at 7. It's like, okay, do we cancel the show? I'm kind of hoping we'll maybe get to 12 people. If we get to 12 people, am I still willing to do it? Do I want people to drive all the way down from Denver to do a show for 12 people? I don't know. Bad shows happen all the time. Why can't bad shows happen for Pikes Punk sometimes? Maybe we just do it. But I at least want to get into double digits. I would like to get a dozen people if I could have my truest heart's desire. 7 tickets sold, and then at 2 o'clock, day of, someone asked for a refund. They said, hey, we're not going to be able to make it. I need a refund for my 2 tickets I purchased. So I'm like, all right, that's it. We're not doing the show. It's not happening. So I had to cancel the show, refund everyone their tickets. I still paid the performers because it was like the day of, and I've wasted your night now. You could have been booked on something else, and I don't know if it was like, hey, do you want to come do my show? Oh, I can't. That's Saturday. I'm doing the Pikes Punk show. So you said no to that show only for me to cancel my show, so now you've lost out on 2 shows. I don't know. It felt rude. So, and I've never had to cancel a show before, so I still paid everyone. Not 100%. It was like 75% because I'm like, you don't have to drive down here. So, you're probably actually making more on that 75% than on the 100% of you having to drive down here and then pay for gas money. But anyways, so I canceled the show, paid everyone, lost over $300. So it's sometimes on a Pikes Punk show, I'll make $100. Like the headliners will actually make more money than I do for putting on the entire thing. Sometimes I'll make $100. Sometimes I'll make $300. And sometimes, rarely, but sometimes I'll make like $700 on one show. And then there's times where I lose over $300 on a show, and that just comes right out of my bank account, baby. So that's capitalism. That's the free market. That's entrepreneurship. I've done shows for people where they canceled and they don't pay me. That was another thing real quick. I was telling Lydia, I'm like, I feel like I should pay them all because it's like day of. But I don't know. Selfishly, I feel like I should pay them only like 75%. And Lydia goes, who's like, she's the one I expected out of anyone to be like, yes, you have to pay them. Lydia goes, has anyone ever paid you for a show that they've canceled the day of? I'm like, no. She's like, well, why do you have to pay them anything? I say 50% tops you pay someone. I'm like, okay, that's good to know. So I will pay them 75%. So, yeah, I've never had to cancel a show before. I was very embarrassed, especially because it was due to low ticket sales. People put that on Facebook or on Instagram all the time where like, show canceled due to low ticket sales. I'm like, why don't you keep that to yourself? Why are you telling everybody you are bad at selling tickets? And then I had to do the same thing and eat a little humble pie. So I've never had to cancel before. Lost a good chunk of change. But anyways, I've done shows where not only have they not paid me when they canceled, which is, I guess, fine, but I've done the show. And then they go, hey, we don't have enough money to pay you. I was like, that seems like a you problem, not a B. I need to get in. I've, for a long time, and I think a lot of comedians have this, where it's like, I'm doing not a favor, but like I'm just so excited to be there. It's like, oh, I don't care if you pay me or not. But at you get to a certain point, it's like, no, you're paying me for services rendered. Like, it's like a contractor. You just can't go, hey man, thank you for doing the job, but I don't have enough money to pay you. Okay, well then I'm gonna put a lien on your house or whatever. I can't put a lien on comedy. I can't take the laughs back. But it's like, you don't have $25 to give me? It's not like you're paying me $150, $6,000, and you don't have the money because tickets didn't sell the way you wanted to. It's $25. You give me $25. How's that sound? Go home, go to your change jar, give it to me. You can buy drugs. You always seem to be able to buy drugs. You're always buying cigarettes and alcohol. So you have money. You just didn't sell enough tickets to where you didn't lose anything. Well, that's a you problem. So now you've lost something now. So now you have to give me money and you lose. That's so the free market. I'm getting on my we're getting close to the election. I'm on my patriotic high horse. But sometimes people are very adverse to money loss, and I take it on the chin like a man, and I complain about it on a podcast and look for sympathy. Yeah, so the Pikes Punk show, that sucked. That hurt my feelings that I lost a lot of money and I had to cancel the show because I didn't sell enough tickets. So no more October shows, everybody. No one cares because no one bought tickets to the October shows, but no more October shows. I don't like them, and they don't do well for me. So we're going right into November. November show. Ladies and gentlemen, would you believe it? Mike Hammock, the one and only Mike Hammock, headlining the Pikes Punk's comedy show, November 30th. Also, before that, on November 17th, you can find me featuring for the one and only Mike Hammock at Comedy Works Downtown. Please buy tickets. If you're in Colorado, please come to Comedy Works Downtown. See me and Mike and whoever is hosting. Also, November 15th and 16th, you can find me hosting for Mike Hammock at Looney's Comedy Corner here in Colorado Springs. Me, Mike Hammock, and John Rummery. Going to be doing some shows at Looney's. Then that Sunday, the 17th, I'll be featuring for Mike at Comedy Works. And then on the 30th, Mike is going to be headlining Pike's Punks. I will not be at Pike's Punks on the 30th. Thad B will be hosting for me. I'm doing a clean weekend up in Boulder at the Comic Sense Comedy Club at the Hotel Boulderado in Boulder, Colorado. I'm featuring, doing a clean weekend. Don't know for who. We're getting kind of close, and I still don't know who's headlining that weekend. Maybe it's me. I don't think it is, but hey, wouldn't that be nice? I think I am featuring. He just asked me, he said, can you do 30 minutes clean? And I said, how clean? I could do PG-13. If you want full 30 minutes, PG-13. And he said, that works just fine. And that is the last I've heard. So I'm assuming I'm featuring. But if you're in Boulder, come see me in Boulder. What else have I got going on? Hey, we're plugging dates while we're here. November 7th, the day before my birthday, I am doing a show in Loveland, Colorado, where it's at an axe throwing bar. It's called Axe to Grind is the bar. The show is called Hatchets and Ha-Has because everything has to be alliteration in comedy. And people write prompts. The audience writes prompts and sticky notes. They get put onto a target, and then I, the comedian, have to throw an axe 3 times, whatever prompts it lands on. So if I land on shoes, the war in Iraq, and Dogecoin, I don't know, I have to go to the back, and you get 7 minutes to then write 7 minutes of comedy, which I don't know if you know about writing comedy, but it takes longer than the amount of time you have to talk to write that amount of thing. But you have 7 minutes to write 7 minutes of comedy. So I'm driving 3 hours, 2.5 hours up to Loveland to miss, because I don't know how to throw an axe, probably miss and embarrass myself, to then do 7 minutes of jokes that I probably won't love, to then drive back. But it's a gimmick show. I like gimmick shows. It causes me to push and expand myself and what I'm capable of. So that, and like the Forts, that's not a gimmick show, but did I want to drive 3 hours away to do 5 minutes unpaid? No. But got to broaden my horizons, have to expand myself and what I'm capable of and represent the scene of Colorado Springs as a whole. And this gimmick show in Loveland, I think will be fun, and I think it will be educational for me. But I don't think I'm going to have the set of my life and have the best time I've ever had and make a lot of money. But it will cause me to grow, and that's painful. Anyways, and then December 14th, is it the second Sunday in December? I want to say it's December 14th. I'm headlining. Don't get the headline very often, but I'm headlining at Oscar Blues in Colorado Springs. Very excited. Extremely excited to headline. I've got a couple of headlining things lined up, which I'm thrilled about. So headline. Oh, and there's a don't tell. There's a don't tell or two in there, sprinkled throughout. No one's coming to the don't tell shows. I mean, people are, but none of you. So there's some don't tell shows, but headlining Oscar Blues, headlining some shows next year. That I've got that planned out, and that's going to be very exciting. If you see me headlining a show, just, the podcast costs you nothing. Buy a ticket to that show. Don't even show up. Just buy a ticket. That way the venue knows that if they book Russell, people will buy tickets. And they're going to go, wow, we sold 15 tickets. And for whatever reason, only 7 people showed up. Who are these other tickets from? And we go, it's my mom, my old coworkers, my brother. It's from the guy who booked me at Oscar Blues. Jason Wilhite, you owe me. Thank you very much for letting me headline. But Pikes, to get back to Pikes Punks and then talk about headlining, I'm all over the place because it's technically the middle of the workday and I have to get back to work. But I have to get this podcast out by tomorrow, and I can't have my wife catching me recording a podcast in the middle of the day. That's terribly embarrassing. But Pikes Punks comedy show, Yeah, I want to get, I don't know, bigger names. I want to get bigger names. I want to book like out of town people. I don't know how much to pay people. Like, I think how much I book my headliners for is an appropriate and good amount, and they see most people. I've had a few people turn me down, but most people seem to be happy with the money. They're willing to drive down to do the time. But I want to ask out of town people, but I feel like I should have to pay them more and not pay them the same as I pay everybody else. Also, people have told me though that's on them. Like, people road dog it all the time, and they'll drive out for $6 if they get stage time. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to lowball people just to get them on the stage. I want to make it worth their while. But also, the show does not always make enough money for me to then reasonably make it worth their while. If I'm like, hey, I want you to come headline for, making up a number, $800, and then I sell 60 tickets for $10 a pop, that's a great show. A $60, 60 people for a show, that's a great show. I've still lost $200 on the headliner, and then paying everyone to feature and stuff, I've lost money on all that. So it's like, oh, we sold 60 tickets, and I still lost $400. So I don't know what to do about that, but I had an opportunity come across me recently. I had the only reason I'm bringing it up is I posted about it publicly on Instagram and then took it down. And some people messaged me about it or commented on it, and now I'm embarrassed. But I've been a fan for a while. Recently got much more into comedian James Donald Forbes McCann and his podcast, the James Donald Forbes McCann Catamaran Plan. Really enjoyed it. I actually just subscribed to his Patreon like 3 weeks ago. So very funny. I like him. If you like the episodes of me where I'm kind of alone and rambling in the car alone by myself at 3 a.m., if you like those, you'll probably like the James Donald Forbes McCann Catamaran Plan episodes. That's a lot of his energy as alone rambling by himself. They're only like 25 to 35 minutes. But he's Australian, and that's fun. He's got a fun little accent. I like him a lot. I think he's very funny. Been watching a lot of his specials and clips and following him on Patreon. I think he's very good. And recently came across my desk that he could headline the Pikes Punks comedy show, which was just like incredible. I'm like, oh, I've been a fan of his for a while, and again, recently subscribed to his Patreon. Recently been like in like the last like 3 months have like really been devouring any content he puts out. And then kind of out of the blue, someone messaged me and was like, hey, James is looking for headlining spots. Can he headline your show? And I'm like, oh my God, what a coincidence. Yes, absolutely, please. That'd be amazing. And I didn't technically have availability for him because he wasn't available the last Saturday of the month. So I just made a date in the middle of the month happen in December. So excited. And then sat on it. Didn't hear anything from him directly. So there's nothing against him or anyone who reached out to me. But was told from a third party, James is in. Let's do the show. Amazing. Made a poster. Made an Eventbrite link, which I now have to take down now that I'm thinking about it. And then I was just so excited about Mike's show in November and James's show now in December and the lineup we have in January I'm very excited about. So I just posted all the posters. I'm like, look at how amazing this show is. How incredible is that? And then I posted that. A lot of people saw it. And then an hour after I posted that Instagram story and after a lot of people saw it, then the third party I'd been discussing with reached out to me and went, oh boy, I have some bad news for you, ... I was like, all right, delete the post. Just immediately took them down. I didn't wait to hear specifics. I just assumed, well, the show's not happening. And I responded, I said, like, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. But it was just, I have some bad news from you, ... And then I waited. And I waited for about 14, 15, 16 hours and did not hear anything back after that. So I finally had to reach out and be like, hey, does that mean, like, can you give me, like, that's ominous as hell. And then you just, I'm bugging out about this. Can you just tell me yes or no? And they said, no, it's not happening. I'll double check though. It's like, no, don't say, just say it's not happening. Now that you're saying it was ominous before and now I'll double check. So you're still leaving a thread of hope. It's obviously not happening. It's just not happening. But that was a big, like, that was the night that I got the message of like, hey, James is trying to do some shows in Colorado. Could he do your show? I could not. I stayed up for like 3 hours. Like, I'm laying in bed trying to fall asleep, and I just couldn't sleep for like 3 hours because I was so excited about this happening. And then it was kind of a kick in the gut that apparently news had been out on some side that this was not happening, and no one told me until I posted about it publicly. And then people messaged me about like, oh, how did you get that guy? I'm such a huge, and then someone was like, by the way, it's not going to happen. Oh, well, it would have been nice if you told me before I did this. So that was a kick in the pants. But it was nice, again, on the other end, that people know my show as like, hey, someone's from out of town, they have a special. They were trying to practice for a special they got coming up. Where's a good place they could get an hour where they could practice their hour to practice for their upcoming special? Oh, Pike's Punk's comedy show in Colorado Springs. It would be like a good place. That made me feel good. Like, even though it's not working out, like I'm a little bit more over it now that the day has gone by, and that's officially kind of settled. But it is like a good feeling of like, he reached out to someone, this James Donald Forbes McCann, reached out to someone and said, hey, I'm looking to do some spots in Colorado. Where should I do that? And someone said, Pike's Punk's comedy show. That made me feel very good. It is like, okay, so it's closed door today, open door long term, maybe, that it's like people know about the show. People are recommending the show to these people. So maybe it's not always something that I have to wonder about and like, oh, how do I pay the headliners and how do I reach out to them in the first place so that I can entice them with enough money? Maybe it's getting to a point where it's just like it has some kind of reputation in Colorado where if someone from outside of town reaches out, like, where can I do a show in Colorado? They go, oh, you gotta do Pike's Punk. So that made me feel good. Even though the opportunity is not happening short term, long term it is like, oh, it feels good to know that this is something that is noteworthy for people in the state. So that made me feel good. And it's a door shut for now, but where the sweet, sweet Lord closes a door, maybe he opens another. People say that. I don't know if that is always true. Sometimes he just slams it shut, and that's just the end of that. There's not always a loophole or workaround. Sometimes it's just no dice, brother. So I hope that's not this, but I'm also open in my heart to this being a no dice, and that's fine too, if that's what the Lord has in store for me. But that's for another time. I don't mean, people always worry this is a Christian podcast, and I'm not trying to make it one. That was James Donald Forbes McCann, very funny, very Australian, very Catholic man, and I was going to try and trick him into getting on the podcast so that we could have a Christian podcast together. That would have been fun. I think that would have been good for the numbers. He's done Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast. He opens for Shane Gillis. He's been on Kill Tony, like as a panelist and not as like a contestant. So I'm like, oh, this would have been good numbers for the podcast. Maybe we do keep this alive. Maybe we do keep it weekly. Maybe that'll be worth it. Maybe that'll be the big pop we needed. And no pop is being had, and that's fine. Again, maybe that's like, I'm sorry. Maybe that is the Lord being like, hey, you, like, seriously, you need to focus on pregnant wife. You guys have been asking for a second child for 2.5, 3 years. That is going to be your focus. Like, sorry, this is closed for now, because you have to focus on your wife and family and not comedy all the time, which is fair. I would love it. I would love it if God taught me lessons without a kick in the nuts sometimes. I feel like that is how God mostly teaches me lessons. There's times where like things are happening and I'll be like, God, I got it. I got the lesson. Okay, so we don't have to do this whole dance anymore. I've learned, I understand what you're trying to tell me. I need to reprioritize my life, this, that, and the other, whatever it is. I've contextualized the situation. I've digested it. From there, I've extrapolated a lesson to be learned. So knock it off. We're done. We got it. The lesson's been learned. Let's wrap up the heartache. And that's not always how it works. He does. I don't know if he loves that attitude, but I keep giving it a shot. Maybe one of these days it'll pay off for me, but not so far. not so far. All right. That's enough. We talked about the free market. We talked about the Lord. So this has officially been a Bubble Boy podcast, especially once we crack open this Buena Vista Black Cherry from the Rocky Mountain Soda Company. Hopefully this is a twist off. Ooh, see? It's a twist off when I don't have guests. When I don't have guests, it's always a twist off. But, all right, bottoms up. Let's give it a shot. Vaguely black cherry. Tastes like bubbly sugar water. It's soda. Who would have thought? My daughter, Violet, instead of chugging, she refers to things as gunking. She's like, oh, I'm going to gunk that. She'll get a glass of milk, and she's like, oh, I love milk. I'm just going to gunk this. And she goes, dunk, 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 dunk. She calls it gunking. She dressed herself today. She looks insane. I can't post a picture of it because that's not fair to my daughter for when she gets older, but she's in unicorn sweats and a snow winter cap with a little pom-pom on the end of it that does not match. That's blue and purple. And then her sweats are white and pink. And she's also wearing rain boots, and she's also wearing mittens. She wants it to rain so bad. She really wants it to rain. And so for some reason, she's like, this is what you wear when it rains. It's 70 degrees outside. I bet she's so sweaty. She also, she did say the F word yesterday. That was very funny. We were walking out to the car. She's like, I need my umbrella because she really wants it to rain. She said, I need my umbrella. And I said, where's your umbrella? And she's like, I left it outside. So we go outside. She looks left. She looks right. She goes, fuck. She slaps her head, says the F word, and goes, fuck. I bet it's in the car. And then just walks to the car. I'm like, all right, we got to batten the ship around here a little bit. That's me. I apologize for that. I want to correct that behavior. Of course, I don't want her swearing at school and stuff. But also, it is if you go, hey, no, that's going to bring more attention to it. And then is that going to reinforce that it's a bad word? So I'm going to try ignoring it and see if it comes up again. Apparently, she swore my brother-in-law, my wife's oldest brother, Micah, and his husband were in town. And so we were doing a family get-together. And I think I had a show, so I wasn't there. But Violet and Micah and his husband were downstairs. And Lydia and her mom and dad and brothers were upstairs. And I guess Violet said a swear word downstairs. And Micah immediately ran upstairs and went to Lydia and to my in-laws. It was Violet just said a bad word. And Lydia told me that afterwards, and both of us were like, what a tattletale, dude. That's your blood, and you're going to betray her like that? Should she be saying the bad word? No. But that's not the important thing here. The important thing is that you, 35-year-old man, 36-year-old man, however old Micah is, I have no idea. How old is Micah? 34. You're a tattletale, and that's actually worse than a child swearing. You're you're a baby, and you keep that to yourself. That's niece, uncle privilege. And there should be there should be some secrets between nieces and uncles. I don't like that. That's probably not correct. That's probably not the right move to have. I did one of our friends' sons. We were at his birthday party recently, and I told him something. And I'm like, and that's our little secret. And he went, I'm not supposed to have secrets. I'm supposed to tell my parents if you try and make me have a secret. I'm like, no, stop. That was supposed to be whimsical and fun. I'm not trying to touch you. That's not, no secret. Okay, no secret. My bad. Apparently you're not supposed to tell toddlers that you want to have secrets with them and they shouldn't tell their parents. Apparently that's bad. But I have secrets with all my uncles. That's not true. My father kept me away from all my uncles so that I would not have any secrets to tell. Say what you will about my father and his parenting style, but not letting me get diddled is good. That was a good one. Good job, Dad. I love you. Anyways, well, that's the podcast. I probably have to get back to work. I wonder how many Slack messages I have right now. That's been the Bubble Boy podcast. I don't know what we're doing after this. I might have another episode that I record by myself on my way up to Loveland on November 7th. And then I'm definitely going to record episodes the weekend with Loonies, with Mike and John Rummery. And then I might record another episode at Comedy Works with whoever the host is. And if not the host, because maybe they suck or maybe I don't like them very much, then maybe just another one with Mike. And we'll just have a lot of episodes with Mike coming up. But that's it for now. Thank you, everyone, for your support. Please go review. Please go give Bubble Boy 5 stars on Spotify. Please go give Pike's Punks Comedy Show 5 stars on Google. I want to say something enlightening and positive to end the show. Just a burp. Okay, that's what we're going to end it on. All right, goodbye. Goodbye.